Weekly, GarageBand, GarageBand Weekly, GarageBand Weekly. Need an answer to your question? John, you'll have a suggestion. He's a fountain of all knowledge. I think he might have gone to GarageBand College. What he doesn't know, we'll try and find out. So join the chat and give him a shout. Pete John's GarageBand Weekly.
Yo, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to GarageBand Weekly here on Studio Live today for 2024, the new all singing, all dancing. Well, there'll be a bit of singing, probably no dancing. If you want to get to the feature topic and you're watching the replay, jump down into the description below because down there will be a time stamp that will take you straight to the place you need to go. We'll jump into some news and notes to start off. We'll say good day to the folks who are here live and then we'll jump into the topic because we're doing a streamlined version of GarageBand Weekly. We're down to 30 minutes in 2024. I've set myself a goal. We're going to achieve it. Yes, brevity is 2024's goal. We'll dive into the news and notes because there's not a whole lot of it because guess what? It's a pretty quiet time. Number one, Happy New Year to everybody. Happy 2024. I hope you had a good 2023. I hope you're getting ready to create, to make music, to embrace whatever challenges 2024 throws at you and enjoy yourself. Yeah, and make music with this wonderful piece of tech we call GarageBand. Yes, number two in the news and notes is the holiday period. So guess what? In terms of Apple, GarageBand, music creation, all the outlets are kind of taking a little bit of a break, except for us, of course, and this community. We're still here, we're still at it, we're still talking about GarageBand and related topics. So we will keep doing our thing here despite the fact that it is the holidays. And number three, in our top three little bits of tidbits in the news and notes this week is a few changes around here that you'll see. You'll notice the thumbnail design has changed. Yeah, got to be fresh for 2024. And as I mentioned, we are going to run things a little bit more efficiently, a bit more like a TV station in 2024 as opposed to having the fluidity of YouTube because things have kind of just stretched out over time. And what was a 30-minute show has become an hour, it stretches into an hour and 10, and we don't want that. We want to keep things right on so that you know that between these times every week you've got GarageBand Weekly and we don't faff about. So that's what's happening here. So yeah, a few little changes. The same show is still happening. Your Music Live, the Happy Hour, the podcast, and this show all still happening. But they'll be a little more streamlined, a little less frilly bits, and more straight to the point, which is why we're diving straight into this here today. G'day to the folks who are here live. Hello to Mr. Thomas Christ. Hello, Tremor Bear. Mr. Cockney, hello to you. We've got Mars Capone, Skeeter Melody. Thank you for your kind message that you sent recently. 2023, Greg's First. Do you have to change your name now to 2024, Greg's First? Hello, Jade Star. Hello to Mark Bro. Hello to Mike Swell. I hope you are all doing well. That rhymes, and you know that rhymes. We are still interactive, so do put a question, a Q in front of your comment if you've got a question about GarageBand that's been burning a hole in your brain that you want to get answered. We're more than happy to answer questions. Me, let's be honest, it's me, not we. You can also go to studiolivetoday.com/GarageBand. That is your one-stop shop for all things GarageBand. That's not the right website, that's my regular website. But if you just here's a tip, if you just put a word at the end of studiolivetoday.com, you pretty much go to a thing about a thing. So here's my GarageBand iOS FAQ. You can check out my course. You can check out all the playlists of free videos, all the wonderful communities, and answers to every GarageBand question. Not that if you email me with a question and you haven't checked the FAQ that I will not answer it, but I would really appreciate if you go there because use Pete's digital brain. It is much more reliable than my flesh brain. I can assure you, because I have to go there to remember the things that I've done videos about in the past, which is just the way it is. I go to my digital brain because I don't trust my regular one. There you go. Thank you, Thomas Christ, for putting the link there in the chat for everyone to take a look at. Feature topic. It's auto-tune. We're going to talk about auto-tune because auto-tune gets a bit of a bad rap and a bad name. I mean, you saw the thumbnail if you're watching this and you saw that I put T-Pain there because that's the old thing that we talk, when we talk about auto-tune, we think about ridiculous levels of auto-tune. And don't get me wrong, that's a choice, that's a style choice. And if you want to put auto-tune on your tracks, you absolutely can. But there's some subtle ways to use auto-tune, and that's what we're going to sort of talk about here. And look, GarageBand has the most basic one knob, one dial auto-tune in the world. We're not talking about the types of auto-tune where you can dial it in, you can tell it what key you're in. If you use something like Logic Pro for iPad, you've got a lot more options with auto-tune. In fact, stay tuned if you want to check that out because I'm making a video right now about Logic Pro's auto-tune. So if you see all this and you're like, Johns, I want way more control with my auto-tune. Well, guess what? You can check out the Logic Pro version. Plus, there's a bunch of plugins, because of course there are. There's audio unit plugins, there's AUV3 plugins that will help you with your auto-tune. But we're looking at the very basics of what we have here in GarageBand. So if you are in GarageBand, I've loaded up a project here. This is my project called Imagination. If we turn up the volume, this is a vocal line that we're going to be playing around with because we have some sort of rap vocals at the start here.
Sometimes I sit around and wonder how it is I got here and if I'm going under.
And then towards the end here, we have some more melodic vocals.
Imagination.
So I thought this would be a good track to show you exactly how auto-tune works here in GarageBand. So this is the track. I'll play a little bit of it here just so you can get a feel for what we're playing with. If you haven't heard this one before, sounds a little something like this.
Sometimes I sit around and wonder how it is I got here and if I'm going under. All the complications of my life, all the times when I couldn't reach a knife in my...
So that's what we're going to play around with here. Now, what we can do to add auto-tune, we'll just solo this vocal and we'll come here into the little mixer here and go to plugins and EQ. So we can hit the edit button here and we've got a blank slot. So anytime you've got a blank slot, you can add things in, right? Wrong. You lose, sir. Here's the problem with auto-tune here in GarageBand, and that is it's only available in certain audio presets. So here's the first trick for young players, for new players, is that you do need to be able to jump in here and change the presets. So there's a couple of ways to do this. What I would suggest, let's say you've dialed in your sound exactly as you want it, but then you also want auto-tune. It can be a bit tricky. So what I would actually do is duplicate out this vocal track. We're going to get rid of that one, and then we're going to use a new track here. You'll also need to copy and paste any audio that you had. So if we grab that, we tap it again, we copy it, and we line this up over here and paste it down exactly in the same spot. So we've created a duplicate. So this way, if we mess everything up, we've still got these original vocal settings that we had here to refer to. But what we actually need to do is change the vocal preset here. So to do that, we jump back out here, and here where it's got lead vocals, we actually tap on that one and we need to restart this. So the vocals that have auto-tune on them are radio ready, as you can see down here where pitch control pops up, and lead vocals where pitch control pops up. If you've already used punchy presence or sweet chorus or pop overdrive or heavy distortion, you're not going to have it there. And because it's a built-in preset as opposed to a separate plugin, you can't add it after the fact. So let's go with a lead vocals here so that we've got some tone control, some pitch control, some compression, some drive, and some vocal hall. This is kind of my starting point with most vocals that I use. So now that we've reset this, we can come here and we can hit play and take a listen.
Sometimes I sit around and wonder how it is I got here and if I'm going under.
So the reason I use this is it starts with all the bits that I tend to use anyway. I tend to use a little track reverb, a little bit of compression, some EQ, and some drive. Overdrive is highly underrated. I highly recommend using a little bit of drive here, especially if you've got digital vocals. You know how digital can sometimes sound a little bit flat and lifeless and it needs to sort of be rubbed in the dirt a bit? Your drive is what does that with your vocals. So how does this auto-tune work? Well, we jump on here and we tap on Enhanced Tuning, and we have to actually go back to here. And as I said, auto-tune here in GarageBand is the simplest thing. It is one dial, you slide it up, and auto-tune is added. So if we play this now.
Sometimes I sit around and wonder how it is I got here and if I'm going under.
Then what we can do is start dialing this up. Let's dial it up to 11. Let's as if you were harsh, you would say let's T-paint it and show you what the most harsh auto-tune is going to do.
Sometimes I sit around and wonder how it is I got here and if I'm going under. All the complications of my life, all the times when I couldn't reach the knife in my back to the day.
So because it's a rap vocal, it's not doing a whole lot, yeah, because it's more spoken word. So what we need to do is come down here to hear the full effect of auto-tune. Let's play this section down the back.
Nation, imagination, imagination,
And you're instantly hearing a bit of a problem. My voice, I use a lot of movement between different notes. So this is why auto-tune doesn't work for a lot of people. If you do rock vocals, if you're a folk singer, auto-tune can actually have a pretty detrimental effect because when you're doing that, imagination, like that, a little bit of vibrato, the more vibrato and the more movement in your voice. If you just are singing do, re, mi, fa, so, auto-tune's okay. But if you're doing do, re, mi, fa, so, auto-tune is just going to go, which is not exactly what you want. For instance, I'll show you a little example further down. If we just come back to here, because I got some backing vocals here that will actually help demonstrate this a bit better. So if we come down to this one, this is the little intermediate part.
Don't always believe the things in your head. Sometimes it's just imagine.
So you can hear I got a little bit of flange on there. I got some other effects here, but we don't have any of that tuning. So if we change this one around, again, this time let's go to maybe the punchy presence. It's a punchy presence that has it? No, radio ready. Radio ready. And you can see radio ready has pitch control on by default, which is a bit weird. So if we turn the pitch control up on this one, and this is a stereo backing vocal, so we'll do the exact same over here. We will tap that one, we'll go to radio ready, and we'll turn pitch control up. So with these maxed out, take a listen.
Don't always believe the things in your head. Sometimes it's just imagine. Nations war.
Now, is that terrible? No, because it kind of works for the type of vocals that it is. It's supposed to be just hitting one pitch. And if we bring this into our track and play along with the rest of it, have we unsoloed that one? There we go. We'll unsolo that one. You'll hear that it doesn't actually sound that bad, even with the most extreme enhanced tuning added.
Round and round and round in my head. Don't always believe the things in your head. Sometimes it's just imagine. Nations war.
So it's almost what you'd want with something like that because it's the right type of vocal. So I wanted to put that out here on Front Street that when people say auto-tune bad, natural tuning good, it's not really the case because it really does depend on the type of vocals that you're applying it to. Now we can, of course, use less auto-tune, which is exactly what I would recommend here. So we can drive this one back. And if we used, say, half the pitch control on these, and by the way, it's called Enhanced Tuning and Pitch Control here in GarageBand. It's not actually called Auto-Tune. Why? Auto-Tune's actually a registered trademark. A dude invented Auto-Tune. And you know what? It's a really fascinating story. Go and research it. There's heaps of videos on the internet. But the dude was basically working on radar, like for underwater stuff. And he was using this tuning algorithm. Like he was this scientist dude. And then he realized that he could use that same thing to help musicians sound quote unquote better. Yeah.
My head. Don't always believe the things in your head. Sometimes it's just imagine. Nations.
All right, let's go to my next point here, which is that when you're using auto-tune, you don't usually want to use it on everything. And some people have said to me, wouldn't it be great, wouldn't it be grand if GarageBand gave you the option to only use auto-tune on a small chunk of one track? Well, while you can't do that, there's a little bit of a workaround that can actually help you do that. Let's come down here to the end here where we've got this big imagination part. So this is our final big chorus.
Nation, imagination.
Now that sounds terrible, right? With the pitch control on there, because when it does the ear, when it falls down, it's no good. It's no good at all. Yeah, is it in Antares? Doug Kidder's got it right. It's Antares Auto-Tune. That's the original one. the legitimate auto tune that everything else is built around. I think so. So yeah, what we can actually do is split out this track and use auto tune on one but not the other. So to do this, pretty simple. All we need to do is come back here to our track view, tap on that one and duplicate it out, and then any part of this that we actually want to be auto-tuned, we can move to this new track. Because these two tracks are now identical, they've got the exact same things on them, all we need to do is go to this first one and say, right, this one's my natural vocal. This is where I'm going to trust myself, and I want a little bit of auto-tune on a little bit of this. So let's just listen to this and see where we might want to tune up some of these vocal parts.
Nation, imagination.
So maybe that was sounding a little bit flat. So it's actually easy to do here. All we need to do is tap there and split out. And because you don't even have to worry about pops and clicks or anything, because even if I wanted it to be just on a part here, so I don't want it to be on the bit where it falls away, but we can actually just split it in any location we like and move this to a second track. So we split again, we grab this, we drag down, and now on this one, we can start working out how much auto-tune we actually want. So just so that you hear the effect, let's put full auto-tune on this track, none on this track, and take a listen.
Imagination, imagination.
We did get a pop or a click there, didn't we? Yeah, that's no good. It's always the way. I did this in testing and it worked fine. So you will need to play around with this a little bit to find the point at which you need to move these between the two. And it's not going to always work perfectly because that's life, isn't it? Things aren't always. Life doesn't have to be perfect to be wonderful. The other thing to remember, though, is when you play it in your overall mix, there's a good candidate. See how that one was wavery? Imagination. That might be a note that I want to do. So if you're doing it, a whole note is always a better option. It's going to avoid any potential for any clicks and pops, and you're going to be able to add auto-tune to just one part. So let's throw this one. And again, it's just a matter of moving it to the other track and taking a listen to this in context.
Imagination, imagination.
So you can hear there that when it moves over to this track, nation, it actually hits it a little bit better. Now, ordinarily, would you use that much? No, I'd probably use anywhere from a quarter to a half just to do a little bit of moving. You don't want it to completely just sound robotic. But you can see how powerful this is because I, for one, am not a fan of having your whole vocal auto-tune. You can hear it when someone's doing a rock vocal or a folk vocal or a punk vocal or a metal vocal and it's all tuned, every single note is tuned, you can hear it and it doesn't sound right, it doesn't sound natural because you need some of that movement. So you don't want to move it so much that it doesn't sound natural. I mean, AI, AI's taken over. AI is going to be the big thing in 2024, isn't it? Yeah, maybe not. Hopefully not. So that's the basics of tuning your vocal here. And you can, of course, use auto-tune on other devices. So anything that's an audio track, if you've got a guitar, if you've got a bass, if you've got any audio sample, you can use auto-tune. It's going to sound a little bit weird and you will have to put it onto one of those vocals. So if you're using like the amp sims here, that's not really going to work because you'd need to change it to a vocal and then you'd lose all of your amp sim stuff. So it's mainly for your vocals, but if you do have like a loop or a sample or something else that you wanted to add it to, then yeah, you can do that. So auto-tune, what do you think? Handy? Useful? Maybe. Won't be for everyone, and that's the beauty. That's the beauty of music, isn't it? That things aren't for everyone. And you don't have to love it, you don't have to like it. You do you, use what you got and don't be upsot. Something like that. So there you go. That is auto-tune in GarageBand. Let's see what you folks have to say about auto-tune. Yes, Antares is the original auto-tune. The Beatles used auto. This is the thing. It's technology. It's a tool. Originally, there was no electronic instruments. So the first electric guitar probably freaked out all the guitar aficionados that thought guitar, like all instruments had to be real and anything that was unreal was not okay. Well, no, the Beatles used all sorts of effect. They used bouncing across different tracks and different channels. If GarageBand existed, if Logic Pro existed, John and Paul would be using it. right now if they were still around. And look, I'm sure Paul McCartney is not recording on an old 4-track reel tape deck anymore. I'm pretty sure he's probably got himself a nice Pro Tools rig or Logic rig. I wonder what he actually uses. What do you think? If Paul McCartney's writing a song, he probably just sets his phone up and records himself and then hands it to an engineer and says, "Here, I have all the money. You go and make it good." Yes, the pitch correction software. Happy New Beer treatment in progress. Yeah, I hope you had a great New Year's. Anyone that's been celebrating, and hopefully you're not paying the repercussions for having a really good time. Pop Fan 125 says, "I use autotune all the time because my singing sounds slightly out of tune some of the time." And again, it's a tool, so yeah, using it a little bit. But remember, there's kind of two ways. There's tuning a vocal, and then there's using auto-tune as an effect. So just make sure that what I see a lot of folks do is they kind of do both. They skirt in between the two, and then it sounds a bit fake, and so it's not real, but it doesn't sound so fake that it's a deliberate choice that you're adding auto-tune as an effect. So I reckon commit either way. Either use it to just correct those notes to make it sound more natural so that it's not distracting. If you're hearing a note that's flat or sharp that's making it distracting, fix that. But if you want to just use it, I don't know. I kind of say T-Pain it. I think embrace it. If you're going to use auto-tune, embrace the auto-tune. They did have an app. I don't even know if it's AUV3, Thomas. There was a standalone auto-tune app for like iPhone that you could literally just plug in your headset and sing into it and it would auto-tune it. I don't know that it's ever been great for music production. The one that we have in Logic Pro is good. And like I say, we'll be covering that very soon right here on the channel. Yeah, the GUI is different with the different apps. Absolutely. It is indeed. Yeah, Logic Pro. Again, we'll be covering that very soon because Logic Pro pitch control definitely has a lot more options. You can do things like dial in what key you're in. You can actually specifically define notes that you want it to go to, because what you'll notice with the auto-tune here, it just goes to the closest semitone, which is usually what you want, but not always what you want. That's how you get those kind of out of tune sounding bits where it goes, you know, that effect. That's because instead of in your major scale you may be recording in, it should go, it should be going between a tone. It's going between a semitone instead. If that doesn't make any sense to you, let me demonstrate here on a keyboard if I just grab this synth piano. So the difference that we're talking about here is, we need to increase the volume here so that you can actually hear. So if I was hitting a note here, like if I was in C major, it wouldn't want the C sharp to be in there. So if I was hitting this note, I was going from a C to a D, la, la. What auto-tune would do is if I go a little bit up, it'll go la, 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 la. It'll sit there in between, and you don't want that. So the cool thing that you can do with auto-tune or tuning control in things like Logic Pro is tell it what key you're in, and it will actually care about that and use it correctly for you. Mike says, "I hate auto-tune because I have no control over it. It feels like someone else is singing. It's unnatural, but that's just me. And I usually play the guitar when I'm singing, so it bleeds into the mix." That's the other thing. Yeah, if you got some guitar bleed in there as well, that can sound a bit wacky if you use auto-tune. And you don't have to. Again, this is folks who will want to use it can use it. If you don't have to. And you're right, exactly. As Mr. Cockney says, auto-tune is not for every kind of voice. It's hard to control. Anytime you're using your voice to do some effects yourself, you probably don't want it. Like I say, vibrato, sliding between notes, that's where it can sound pretty bad. What is the difference between auto-tune and a vocoder? They're similar but different. Vocoder, I don't know the technical definition, to be very honest. Vocoder is more about like having your voice and playing along to notes. So vocoder is kind of like the next step of auto-tune, where you say, hey, I want it to be in C major, and then you can actually move between the notes that are there. Usually you get it's usually more of an effect. So vocoders were originally more of an effect for making it sound like robotic sound, having that robotic kind of sound. And then auto-tune in its pure state just is changing the pitch. But a lot of people will also add distortion, or they'll add flange, or they'll add something else to auto-tune to kind of give it more of a vocoder type effect. So they're in the same family. Yeah, exactly as Tom. See, as usual, I explain something in a minute. Thomas Christ explains it in a sentence. There you go. Auto-tune just changes the pitch. Vocoder actually applies the sound of a synth to the vocal recording. So it actually changes the sound. So it's like the can you feel the timbre. There you go. The timbre of the voice. Uses Reaper. Is that Paul McCartney? Does he use Reaper? Wouldn't be surprised. A cassette player? You reckon he just gets out an old micro cassette player? The old what did we use back in the day? Like a Sanyo or something? Just plug it in there. A little boom box, little blaster. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, when it's used as part of the art, exactly. It's a tool, as Doug Kidder says. When you use it as part of the art, you're okay. You're all good. Right, yeah, thanks to Share, people discovered that extreme settings sounded cool as an effect, and the rest is history. Basically, yeah. And but people like, it's weird, Cher, or whoever Cher's producer was, more to the point, probably wasn't Cher herself, was the one who started using it in that song Believe. And if you watch the story that T-Pain tells, and there's a great series that I always forget the name of, it's like How Pop Was Made or something like that. There's a T-Pain episode, you'll find it, search around. There's a T-Pain episode, and he talks about just trying everything to find how to do that sound. And eventually he worked it out, and the rest was history, as they say. I can't stand Autotune. Melodyne does a better job. Yeah, that's the other thing, as Pal says here. Melodyne is like a Autotune, but with a lot more options. So the version you get in Logic Pro and similar is more like Melodyne and less like what we're showing here. It's less of just a set it and forget it. You get a lot more control over exactly what you do. Hello, Semtex Cow. Moo to you, my friend. Happy New Year, everybody. Yeah, Beatles sped and slowed down playback. They never used any type of pitch correction. Well, yeah, I guess that's the thing. Tape speed is pitch correction. Like you can argue semantics till the Semtex cows come home. But yeah, if you want to change a pitch of something, like listen to some Beatles songs, you try to play along with them and you can't because they wanted it to be slightly lower or slightly higher. So they just changed the tape speed. So yeah, I guess it's not pitch correction because you're correcting the whole passage. But I'm sure that there were times where they sang something in A and they wanted it in B, so they just turned it down till it was in B. But of course that changes the speed as well, which does other things as well. Barry Glenn, we have a Sanyo. We used it in the 70s to work out solos. Very cool. Yeah, I used to have a little Sanyo tape deck, and it was golden. I got a couple of questions, so we'll jump into these before we finish off. How do you mix perfectly your vocals inside GarageBand on a MacBook Air? I don't do a lot of GarageBand on Mac. I would go and check out Patrick from the GarageBand Guide. He has a lot of videos about mixing and a lot of videos about GarageBand for Mac. The best thing, the biggest, quickest advice for mixing is mix with your ears, not your eyes. Less is more, so only apply effects and only apply EQ and things when you need to. And yeah, just trial and error. Just try and work things out. But remember, mix engineers used to be called balance engineers. So the most important thing about mixing is your levels. Your volume levels have to match. Once you get that right, everything else is kind of like the icing on the cake. I think we all get a little bit over involved with mixing at times, and yeah, you don't really need to go into a lot of effort. Logic Pro for iPad. Any way to select a different iCloud folder? Logic puts songs in the downloads folder. So really quickly, what I do to get around this, so when I'm using Logic Pro, I just I start it in the folder that I want it to be in. So if we come over here to Logic Pro, and I'm starting a new project, so we'll come out of there, where I just come in here and go to iCloud Drive, Logic Pro for iPad, and create my project there. And then it saves it in there. And then next time you come in, it'll default to that location. So maybe if you, I don't know, maybe when you open the first time, maybe by default it goes to downloads. That seems a bit weird. But yeah, that's the way that I do it, because then if we come out here, let's just close Logic Pro and reopen it. See what happens here. iCloud Drive. Yeah, so it starts back in iCloud Drive. So perhaps there's some setting that you set it to automatically go to there. But yeah, for me, I just go into Logic Pro for iPad, create project there. And that's the way it works for me. So hopefully that helps. But Mars, Mars is one of my wonderful patrons. So Mars, you can hit me up on the email or on the Patreon message if you got any further questions. Yeah, just that's all it is. It might just default to there, but just yeah, when you go in, do that. And if you need to move it, just go to your Files app and grab it, drag it across, or copy and paste it and put it over into your Logic Pro folder. That is going to do it for GarageBand Weekly. It feels quick, doesn't it, to do a 30-minute show? But that's 2024, and if you don't like it, you can blame TikTok. No. No, it's for me. I just need to be a lot more focused, and yeah, it has been a challenge. The last year has been a challenge for creators. So yeah, you got to keep moving with the times and trying new and different things. So I wanted to say a huge thank you to everyone for being here, and thank you for all of your support in 2023. Here's to a big 2024. Until next time. Please be kind to yourself, kind to others. Keep creating. See you next time here on Garage Band Weekly. Bye for now.